Well, hi there, and welcome to Lesson 7 of the Fall Acrylic Portrait Painting Challenge. Painting smooth skin tones and nuances in your portrait. Painting smooth skin tones and nuances in your portrait. You know, every week when I think of the title, sometimes I forget what the title is. I probably should write it down. But anyway, so good to see you here. It's always a delight to continue teaching you in this lesson, and the painting is really getting closer and closer to the finish line. We've got some really good skin tones developing already, but in this lesson I really want to concentrate on the skin tones, though I will be working on some other parts of the portrait and just getting everything to a more finished look. So if you've been painting along with me, again, I want to commend you for sticking with this challenge. It's not easy. This was a very challenging image here that we chose as a group to paint from. And I want to just say thank you for putting in all the hard work. Stay with your portrait, even if you're finding out some areas in your painting that are difficult, if you're struggling a little bit to resolve certain areas that just look a little out of whack or not quite how you'd like them to appear. By pushing through that, and I've said this in previous lessons, but by pushing through that, you will develop a sense of perseverance and problem solving that you can take into future paintings. In our last portrait painting challenge, we had hundreds of artists take it, and several of those artists went on to do commission portraiture. After just doing one portrait, they went on doing commission portraits, and many of them are painting portraits of their family members, grandchildren. They want to give fantastic, original, unique gifts to their loved ones, and they're now able to do it. And so I want the same for you. Whatever your goals are, I want to help you achieve them. So let's stay with this here. If you need some help, reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help you any way I can. But for now, though, if you haven't already, you can sign up for the challenge. It's not too late. In fact, even though this is the Fall Portrait Challenge, you can sign up even if it's spring or summer or winter, whatever season. You can sign up at realisticacrylic.com/fall-acrylic-portrait-painting-challenge. And when you sign up, I'll send you that welcome kit. You'll get the supplies list, the gridded reference photo, the palette layout guide, all the lessons, everything you need to paint along with us. So go ahead and sign up. It is free, and I'll be here to help you and cheer you on. Other artists will as well. And it's always fun to do projects like this in a group setting. Even though we're separated by the miles, together, in a sense, we're one doing this, as a group. So join the challenge, have fun, and look forward to seeing your work. All right, I'm going to open up here with a word of prayer, and then we're going to get started. Father, I ask a blessing here on this challenge. Again, Lord, I confess that I need your help. The painting has some areas that I would like to fix. My painting has areas I'd like to fix. And Lord, I know that you can help me to do that. I know that you can help all the students. Some of them are really thrilled with their portraits. Others are still excited, but they're concerned about some areas that just, maybe look a little muddy, or the proportions aren't quite right, or whatever it might be. Lord, I pray you'd help them. I pray you'd anoint their brush strokes. I pray that you'd guide them, give them wisdom, problem-solving skills. Lord, I pray you'd give them a sense of perseverance, that they would just continue to work on their portraits even if they feel a little discouraged, and they would ask you for help, and Lord, you would help them. I pray that you'd help me to teach this lesson well, that I would make the concepts clear, and that the technology would hold out, and this whole session, this whole challenge would finish well, or that many students would come away with portraits they can be proud of. So, Lord, bless this time in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, let's dive right in. What we're going to do right now is, I think I'm going to work on the background. I want to work on the background, just liven that up a little bit. We will get to the skin tones, but for now I want to work on the background. And I'm going to take some Indian yellow. That's a really bright pigment. Indian yellow. Just a touch of raw sienna. Just kind of set it off to the side, away from the matte medium. And yes, you always want to have some matte medium on your palette when you do the glazing technique. We'll take just a little bit of phthalo blue. Just a little bit of phthalo blue. Strong pigment. Just pull it off to the side, mix it in as we need it. We're creating kind of a nice, rich yellow-green. Alright, so basically equal portions of Indian yellow raw sienna, but a smaller portion of phthalo blue. And I'll show you on the white card. This is what the glaze would look like. I want to make it just a little more green. It's a little too yellow, so let's just add a little more phthalo blue. Alright, and I want to make sure this glaze has enough color in it. Let's see how this looks now. That's a little better. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We'll start on the left-hand side, and we're just going to go over the lighter portion of the trees. It can overlap into the background, that's fine. That'll just help to bring everything together. And we're just going to paint this along the bottom edge as well, because I can see that yellow color in there over all these trees. Don't paint over that little blue pocket in the middle. We're going to leave that little blue pocket there alone, but we're going to continue this all the way across, just using crisscross brush strokes in various directions. That's the way to really get a good smooth finish and have a lot of interesting brush work. Really push that paint out of your bristles. Just really push it out onto the canvas. Now that's going to really liven that area up. You can come back in with some additional glazes later, but for now it's looking good. I don't want to neglect that little area behind her braids. Okay, that's good. I'm going to introduce just a tiny bit of this color into the hill area. I just see a little bit of it there. I'll thin it out, make it a little more translucent. Just put a little bit of that in there, just so we have just a touch of the greenish look, and then a little bit above her hair as well. Alright, that's good. Now I want to do a little bit of work on her hair, and then after that we will get into some of the shadows and skin tones on her face. So we can use this same dollop of matte medium because it's a lighter color, it's not going to hurt anything. But we can add romb or dark to this, and ultramarine blue, copious amounts, and alizarin crimson. Those colors together will make a really nice, rich, almost black color. And let's go ahead and add that in. Let's add that in into the very dark shadowed portions of her hair. I'm really looking for those opportunities, those little nuances. Trying to get the precise shapes here. You can use a round brush for this, it'll work well. Help you to get those really precise shapes. So you see a little opportunity for a shadow right here, and then it kind of blends out. And I'm just going to use my finger and dab that out. I found out from the folks in my Facebook group, one of the gals there posted asking people if they had smudges all over the bottom of their fingers. Because when you do this technique, you do a lot of dabbing. And it turns out many people all have smudges on the bottom of their fingers. So it's nice to know I'm not the only one. We all get a little messy, kind of go back to our childhood and do finger painting as we work with this method. And you can always clean that off with a little rubbing alcohol or just a damp rag if you get it while it's still wet. But rubbing alcohol will take it off pretty easily too. All right, let's darken this area in the middle here a bit. That's a nice shadow, and then we're going to darken this area just below that highlight. And the proper placement of that shadow is super important. And we're going to, this is actually on her skin, but it's a very dark shadow, so we have to keep in mind that even the skin can get to a level so dark that it's just as dark as the hair if the shadow is obscuring the light enough. And in this case it is. In this case it is. So we do have that strong shadow right there. And we're going to just continue that down her face a little bit. Let's just strengthen the shadow in here. Oh, I don't want that going up that high. Just want to get that shape exact. It cuts up in that area a little bit. And we have a bit of a shadow in here. And we're going to continue this shadow out. So I'm just using the preciseness of this round brush, and a nice size 10 really works well. And getting a nice sharp shadow shape there. Yep, these are the little nuances that are best done with a small round brush like this. Okay, and we're going to just strengthen this shape down here. There we go. Fantastic. I was just thinking about today how, man, it's just a beautiful day here in Wisconsin. The weather is so nice. I had a chance to get out a little bit, but it's 70 degrees outside. And about a week and a half ago, it was the opposite. We had snow on the ground. It was 20 degrees. But man, oh man, when you have a day like today where it's 70 degrees out, you've got to get out for just a little bit and enjoy it. All right, we're going to add some shadows here on the bottom of the hair. Yep, we want to bring that all the way down. So here at the bottom it's a little bit darker. I'm leaving this little area open because that's where some light is shining through. A little bit of dark nuance there. I want to sculpt this top part just a bit here. And let's work toward the right hand side, and we're going to get a little shadow in here. There we go. Shadow going over her face. I want to develop that. Oh, I don't want to miss this up here. There's a little bit of a shadow up there too. And then here it gets a little darker just in a few key spots. Dab it a bit with my finger just to soften it. It's darker right in a key spot right there in the middle. Here it gets darker just on the edge. Just dab that a little bit. Develop a little bit of texture as well by using some short choppy brush strokes. Okay, and then we just want to add a little bit of a glaze up to the top. I want to just dilute this glaze a little, make it more translucent. This is what it looks like on the white card. Right there, just to show you. Whereas before, the other glaze was quite a bit darker. You can see that. That was the previous one. But yeah, we'll just dilute this a little bit, and we're going to just darken this area a little. Get a few nuances. I'm going to go over the whole entire bottom area a little bit, just using a very light touch, and I'm going to blend upward so that it trends a little bit lighter towards the top. And that's really starting to suggest the idea of some really good texture in her hair. All right, well, I think might be good with this area. I'm just going to add a couple more nuances to the braids in the back. Darken those spots a little bit. That's good. Yeah, now we're starting to develop some nice texture here. We can just bring this, again, this shading all the way down then into the rest of her face, but we will have to lighten it up as we do that. Okay, so take this glaze and let's see here. I'm going to add just a little bit of Romber dark to it. Touch of alizarin crimson. I'm just going to bring this down into the rest of the area. And I can use this round brush right now because I have so many layers on and I'm dabbing the end of the glaze. I really just want to get it a little bit darker along the edge. And as you apply it, it might look a little bit grayish because of the matte medium, so just keep that in mind. Let it dry, even though it'll look a little bit cooler in tone than what it really is. Just let it dry. And we're going to darken this area here a bit, below her neck, or below her chin, I should say. That's good. Let's develop just a little bit of a nuance here in this area on her back. I get just a little bit of shading there. And I'm going to take some titanium white, some fresh matte medium, spray the palette. A little bit of titanium white, Romber dark, and let's just add a little bit of a nuance right here. Maybe just a touch of burnt sienna. Yep. Just want to get the slightest little nuance behind there. Oh, that's a little too warm in tone. I'm going to add a touch of alizarin crimson to it. Show you the color. And a little bit of Romber dark. Some more matte medium. Again, let's just put in that little nuance back here. So we just want to get a little bit of shading coming out from the juxtaposition, the area where the shadow intersects with the backlighting on her neck and shoulder. I'm using this round brush and I'm just doing short little choppy strokes in the direction of her skin so it kind of flows in that way. And I'm just soften up the edge of those glazes by dabbing with my finger. Go over it a little bit more. I'm going to darken this area a bit. Let's add a little matte medium, and let's just darken this one little section here. Really want to dilute that glaze. You don't want it to get too dark. Add a touch of raw sienna, because it does get a little warmer. A little more matte medium, and we'll just kind of fan this out a bit. It's looking a little splotchy. It's okay. We'll come in and we'll fix that later. Yeah, we'll just fix that later. I'm going to let it sit for now. Okay. Let's see. Let's add some skin tone nuances to her forehead. And for that, I take this 1/2 inch flat, or size 8. And I'm going to use this color that I mixed previously. So this was the one that we were using just in that area over there on the back of her shoulder. I think that'll work just right. So save that color. And you can see what it looks like on the white card. Okay, it's just a nice flesh tone. I'm going to add that. Well, let's just add just a tiny bit more titanium white to it. This is where we get just a little bit semi-opaque. Check that on the white card, it's a little bit lighter. And we're going to then just apply it to the forehead. Alright, so we're going to start from the top. We're going to blend in. Because this is semi-opaque, we can easily blend into our existing skin tones. And just paint over those little white spots. We'll go over them again, that face paint. And just want to develop a sense of the highlight on her forehead. Don't go down too far, because we really do want to make sure we have the light in the right spot. And it's kind of hitting right in the middle and towards the top. I'm going to add a little more nuance to the left-hand side. We'll take just a touch of burnt sienna, add it to this glaze with a little more titanium white. And we're just going to blend out of that area over there on the left. A little more burnt sienna. I can get it just a bit darker. And a little romber dark as well. Show you this when I'm mixing. I want to really get a nice nuance to take it out of that shadow area on the left. This is what it looks like on the white card. You can see that in comparison to the other flesh tone we had. But let's just add that just on the edge here. Okay, we're going to use short choppy strokes to blend out. And we're going to now grab from the lighter part of the mixture here on the palette. And we'll see how we can blend that out now. So we're using kind of a wet on wet blending technique, but it's somewhat translucent. Pull from the darker mixture. Add a little more romber dark, because I detect in the canvas it should get a bit darker, a little cooler in tone. I want to add a glaze right here. So when you're going into these darker areas, you can't use that same glaze as what you were using here, or it's going to get muddy. You have to introduce a little bit of a darker pigment, and usually something a little more saturated in color. And I think it'll work really well right here on this corner of her eye. 45-degree angle, short choppy strokes. I'm going to see, I feel like it's going to be just a bit too dark for this area here. So I'm going to just add a little bit of raw sienna to this glaze. See if it works. It's still a little dark. I'm going to add a bit of titanium white, a little more raw sienna. Let's see what we get. And a little matte medium to thin it out. And I just want to blend out of this area here. Now the titanium white's going to make it cooler in tone, so I have to be aware of that. Now I'm going to do a dilution blending technique, dip my brush into some pure matte medium and really fan out the edge of this glaze just by touching the edge. Just by touching the edge, and dab that even more to get that really soft edge. And that's how that's done. Of course, there's many more layers to go, believe it or not, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Let's take this same color. I'll zoom in a bit. I'm going to take this same little glaze here that I put over there, and we're going to add it just to the interior of her nose. And I'm going to add it just above these little marks, right underneath her eye. Dab the edge of that out. Now it gets a little cooler as we get towards the interior of the eye. So let's pull from this cooler mixture over here. It's got a little more raw umber dark, titanium white, less raw sienna, less burnt sienna. We're going to pull from that mixture. Just add even a little more titanium white to cool it down. And we're going to add just a little bit of a glaze right here. This is semi-opaque. We're getting just that little glaze right underneath her eye area. And we're trying to leave this light spot right there. But I can come back in and I can still lighten it up with semi-opaque layers that go light on top of dark. It doesn't always have to be dark on top of light. We strive for that, but if we don't achieve it, it's okay. We can go with a more traditional opaque technique, kind of adjusted for glazing, where we basically do opaque, but we mix more matte medium in it, and we lighten up any spots that need to be lightened up that got too dark. And the trick is to compensate for that titanium white by adding the warmer colors back in. Okay, so I'll show you how to do it, and I think I've already shown you a little bit how to do it. Let's take a look at her chin. Oh, before we do that, look at this. I've got a little anomaly on my painting. I thought it was a fly for a second, but it's a little area of glaze because I couldn't quite see the color. It got a little too dark when it dried. Let's just lighten that up. I'm going to pull from this darker mixture over here. I'm going to add a little bit of raw umber dark just so it matches, otherwise it'll get muddy. A little bit of burnt sienna. Show you on the white card what that would look like. Something like this. Let's apply that just to that little splotch, just using the tip of my brush, just the corner of it. We're going to fix this mistake. Just fix that mistake like it wasn't even there. And there we go. That's all there is to it. Now, if you don't get the color matched right away, you can always try it again. But that's how you would do it. All right. Now let's get some nuances on her chin. We're going to take some raw umber dark again, because I'm running out of glaze here. Burnt sienna, titanium white, not too much titanium white. If you add too much, you're going to have to add more of the other colors. Okay, so we're looking for something that's kind of warm in tone, but not too warm. Take a little bit of matte medium, just drip it right on top. if you're running out, right on top of that mixture. And show you what it looks like on the white card. It's getting a little more opaque. I can show you on top of a glaze. You can see the opacity as you go on top of that. It's getting more opaque, but it's not completely opaque. And let's test this out. And let's go right on top of the chin. Again, using these strokes that radiate away from the direction of the face. Imagining that there's like sun rays coming from her eyes and we're fanning out. Just kind of keep those brush strokes radiating away from her eyes. I'm going to dab this here. It got a little too dark on that side. It's a little too cool in tone. I can see it right now. It's looking muddy, so I'm going to wipe that off. Try again. It worked okay here, but not over there. So what I need to do is add a little bit of burnt sienna, raw sienna, burnt sienna and raw sienna. Maybe a touch of alizarin crimson. Now let's try this and see how that looks. It's better. Could actually go just a little warmer, a little more alizarin crimson, raw sienna, burnt sienna. Let's just wipe that away, dab it away, whatever. Let's try that again. Yeah, that's closer. That's closer. It's getting a little more opaque than I wanted it to, so I'm just going to squirt some matte medium down and just whatever's on my brush, I'm going to just fan it out and dilute it with matte medium. And I want to dilute it out even more. You can see how this ruins brushes. That's why I don't use expensive brushes for most of my painting. So I'm going to just dab this onto the highlighted area of her chin. And we're going to segue into a lighter color right here. Now I'm going to darken this overall area on the left just a bit. I don't want it to get too dark. I'm going to spread that out. I just had a little too much on my brush. Use brush strokes in different directions. Well, that softened up that edge a little bit, but we have more work to do for sure. I'm going to darken just this edge of her mouth a little bit. Umber dark, bit of titanium white. We want kind of a cool tone, but it's got to have just a bit of a purplish cast, so a little bit of alizarin crimson. No burnt sienna, no raw sienna. A little more alizarin crimson. Yes, for sure. Here we go. Just going to warm it up a bit. Add a little matte medium right on the top. Thin it out, make it more translucent. Apply that just to the edge. And probably should get just a little bit darker than that. Add a little more raw umber dark, a little more alizarin crimson yet. Sometimes you have to test it. Okay, I'm going to wipe that away. I don't like it. Let's try this. So basically I just added a little more umber dark and alizarin crimson to the glaze, diluted it down with some matte medium. Here's what it looks like on the white card. You can see it's got just a little bit more of a reddish color, but it's not quite as yellow. And I'm just going to darken this area here a little bit. Darken that little shadow under her nose. I want to look for any areas where I can employ this glaze. anything where the values appear similar, I want to use it. Probably can use it, yep, on this little shadow area. And I might even be able to use this on the main shadow on her face and just smooth out this whole section. Some good 45-degree brush strokes, because this will really help to smooth out that kind of rough texture that you get from glazing. And then let's bring that up into the highlight portion of her face just a bit. This shadow is going to have to come out a little farther. I probably have it coming out a little too far there. That'll have to get a bit lighter. I'll have to get just a bit lighter, so I'll have to compensate for that. That's a little bit of an error on my part to bring that shadow up that high into her cheek, but that can be compensated for. I'll show you how to do it. I'm sure you'll have areas in your painting that you'll have to adjust, and I don't want you to think that it can't be done. It can be done. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. That's really how I look at life. I'm going to just darken this little spot right up here in her eye. Let's move the camera up. Yep, so just a little pinpoint here. And I'm just using that same color I had there, by the way, because I think it'll work for it. And I'm just getting a little bit of a darker pinpoint there, right up to the upper left of her eye. And I think maybe this also could work too. Could work just below here. This little section right below her eyebrows. I'm going to add a little bit of raw sienna to this, and burnt sienna, and then some matte medium. And I want to just get this little bit of a shadow below her eyebrow area, because the eyebrows do project out a bit. We want to get that little bit of warm coloring that comes down from them. That really helps to bridge it into the rest of the face. Now on this right side of her cheek, it's just a bit darker there. And I'm going to pull from this skin tone here that's just a little bit lighter. And I'm going to just darken this side a bit. Just darken that side a little bit. And then up here I'm going to darken that section by adding a little raw sienna to this area. A little raw sienna to this glaze. Because I can see in the reference photo it's just got a little more of a yellowish, warmish tone. I'm just going to darken that little section there. Just a bit.
Welcome to Verizon Web.
And let's just add a little bit of a nuance right under her eyes. I'm going to use this warmer color down here at the bottom that I mixed before. So we're looking for that, and we're going to just add a bit of a glaze underneath her eye on the left, and also we'll add it to the eye on the right just a bit as well. Just dab the end of that glaze, soften it up a bit so it's not too strong. I'm going to add a little bit above her eye as well, because I see that shadow could get a bit darker. And let's liven up the tip of her nose, just get it a bit warmer. We'll take raw sienna. Let's spray the palette too. Raw sienna and a little bit of burnt sienna together. Matte medium. No titanium white, just those two colors. And let's add a little glaze just at the tip of her nose. We're just going to liven that area up because I see it does get a little warmer. I'm adding a little divot up here like this, vertically using the tip of my brush so that I can leave a nice space for that highlight on the tip of her nose. Now you might end up going with these glazes over your dark areas, and you might have to restore them if they get kind of gray and muddy. That's okay, that happens. It's very normal in the process. Now it's warmer down here, it's probably catching some reflected light, but above it's a little cooler. And there to capture that, let's pull from this cooler part of the mixture with a little matte medium. That would be this area here that's got some raw umber dark, burnt sienna, titanium white in it. This area right here. And we just want to add that to the top. Just with a little bit of straight raw umber dark. Add that to the mix just to make it a little cooler. And then we'll put that right on top. I want to make sure that that's not too dark or anything like that. Okay, maybe it's a little too cool in tone. Just warm it up and add a little bit of this warmer mixture up here. Again, I don't want it too dark. It's okay if we go over the white painted lines because eventually they have to get repainted anyway. I just lost a little bit of this edge here, this little shape there going up. I wonder if I can restore that. I use just the tip of my brush and a very light stroke I might be able to. Alright, I can leave off on her nose for now. There's a little bit of a warmer color just coming from the tip of her nose underneath it. I just want to get that quick right under her nostril. Just down there. And then I want to get this, okay, so I'm not done with the nose yet. A little bit of a alizarin crimson and raw umber dark, burnt sienna. Again, just try to make the glaze pretty light. And we're going to add just a little more warmth right on the tip of her nose there. And a little bit on this other side as well. All right, that's good. All right, this is where we're at right now. We've added a lot of skin tones to her face, and I'd like to show you a little bit on her clothing and how to do some of the striations in there. I just won't have time within the portrait painting challenge to show you every step. It's just my paintings take a lot more than 8 hours of work. This footage, though, is contained within the bonus videos at Realistic Acrylic Portrait School. If you're an all-access member or would like to become an all-access member, you can get access actually to all of these bonus videos. So there's going to be several hours all broken up into little segments you can watch, and that'll help you to be able to get some of the additional nuances and details that I just couldn't finish, or couldn't fit rather, into the portrait painting challenge. So you can go to realisticacrylic.com and go to the classes section, sign up as a member if you'd like to get access to these bonus videos. Just want to let you know that is available, but I do want to show you whatever I can within this time frame. I I'm going to work just a little bit on her clothing at this point, and then we might finish up with a couple of nuances on her chest. But let me actually, while I have this on my palette, let me work on her chest area a little bit. Alright, let's take one of these colors we had from before. I'm going to pull from this part of my palette. It's a little darker version. I'm going to add a little fresh titanium white, raw sienna, a little burnt sienna, matte medium, and I'm going to just add on to this area here, and that should work well. Just to show you on the white card, this is what we've got. It does seem to match well when I hold it up to the reference photo. And we're just bringing a little shading down into her chest area, creating a shape like that. And I want to blend out from there by mixing a little bit of titanium white, just a touch of raw sienna, and dilute it with some matte medium. We'll just bring this into the interior. And you'll find that titanium white adds just a little bit of a cool tone, and I see that cool tone in the reference photo, and that should blend it out really nice. Up here we could add a little more smoothing to that. So some raw sienna, just add a little bit up there, raw umber dark, and we're just going to fill that in right here. Nope, that's got to have a little more of a yellowish tone to it. So add some more raw umber dark, raw sienna, bit of titanium white, some matte medium to make it somewhat translucent. And we'll just fill this in right there. I'll need a little bit of Indian yellow just to shift the color over. It's still too pink. A little bit of Indian yellow. There we go. That's what it needed. Yep, so just to get that slightly more yellowish tone there, apply my brush at an angle to get more glaze on there, and then we're going to pull into the slightly warmer mixture, add a little bit of burnt sienna, and just blend out from this darker area into that. You need it to be chromatically more intense as we go into this dark area. We're just going to glaze right on top. Now we're going to add a little bit of raw umber dark to the mix. A little bit of raw umber dark. So get a little darker in tone, a little bit of burnt sienna, so chromatically it doesn't get muddy. We're just going right up into that dark area, that dark shadow, and developing a little bit of a gradient. Now here I forgot to blend this out. I don't know if it's too late, we'll see, but I'm just going to feather the edge and just at least soften that a bit. Just using the tip of my brush. I'll have to come back in probably and do a little more work with the glazes, but that'll be enough for now. Yep, that'll be enough for now. Okay, I just put down some fresh aluminum foil for my palette, and I'm going to take some titanium white. We're going to just work on this area of her clothing here. Titanium white, ultramarine blue, raw umber dark. Mix them together. Some fresh matte medium, a little bit of alizarin crimson. We're just kind of making a bluish gray. Bluish gray. A little more titanium white, and the matte medium then to thin it out. Spray it down with a little bit of water. You'll need your paint to be very fluid for this. And we're just going to come in and add a few little details and striations in her clothing. So So we're going to see some of those little distinctions here. Add a few lines. Just a few little lines coming up. There's some that are closer together. And here, the thing is that as you add these glazes onto the areas that are deeper in shadow, the color that you use for that will not necessarily work. Will not necessarily work for a different area. So you have to keep that in mind. So it's not going to necessarily work, you know, a darker color will work over this, but over here it's going to look too dark. And then the color that you use over here is going to end up looking too light. So you have to have an area on your palette that has a darker portion and then a little lighter portion. And you can make it lighter by adding more matte medium and also a little more titanium white. But I just want to continue these shadows up. And I want to put a few little striations on the pleating of her dress. So I'm just going to look for those little lines, start adding them in, but I don't want to add them everywhere. I really want to see where they are in the reference photo, the direction they're following the contour of her chest. And that'll be important. And having the lines a little bit darker on the bottom here where they're in shadow, but a little bit lighter on the top. And I'm just using this small round brush. And just adding a few little details here and there. Just keeping those lines following as much as I can in the direction that I see in the clothing. Don't have to show every little line, but the viewer's mind's eye will create what is not seen. Just by having a few of them in there, it'll create the illusion of more. I'm going to add just a bit of ultramarine blue to this glaze, a little bit of titanium white, and there's kind of a shadow here that's just a little cooler in tone, and I want to show that. So it's got a little bit more of a bluish tone to it right there. I want to show that juxtaposition. So we're going to have just a few shadows here on the bottom. I think this part of the bottom here is actually the seam of her dress, the waistline, or pretty close to the upper part of the waistline. Yeah, because I have that wrinkle there, that wrinkle there. I think this is more or less the waistline right there. Just get a little bit of shading. I might just continue these lines down anyway, because otherwise it's going to look awkward just to have half the waistline there. Might be better to continue the rest of this down as much as I can. This should be a little bit in shadow right there. All right. Have a little bit of the details up here. Just on that seam. A couple little lines on the interior of her arm. Just flow in the direction of everything else. Make sure I have that correct. Alright, I think overall that's really good. Alright, and here's where we're at the end of this lesson. We've got many layers on her face. The skin tones are really coming along. We've got some detail worked into her clothing. The background is getting saturated with color. We're getting very close to the finish line on this painting. And I'm excited to help you and help you carry your painting all the way to the finish line as well. If you enjoyed this lesson, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Leave a comment below this video. Let me know how the portrait painting challenge is coming along for you. If I can help you in any way, let me know that as well. You can get a hold of me here by leaving a comment. You can also email me. Get a hold of me at Realistic Acrylic Portrait School for some in-depth comments, critiques, and instruction. And I'm excited to see your portrait painting come along. So go ahead and post it in the Facebook group. Let me know how I can help. Other students are there as well that are willing to give you encouragement and some detailed comments on how you can improve specific areas in your portrait. But I am looking forward to taking the painting home, so to speak, in our last lesson together. That'll be coming up very soon. Excited to share that with you. But for now, thank you so much for watching. God bless. We'll see you in the next lesson.